We have talked about how fractions are part of a whole shape. So here we have a square and it's divided up into 4 pieces, and if I had one shaded, I could say that was 1/4 of a whole shape that is shaded. We've also talked about fractions as part of a set. Here I have some shapes, and if I want to know how many yellow pieces I have, I would say I had 5 out of 10, because out of the whole set, 5 of them are yellow. But today we're going to talk about something else. We are going to talk about fractions as being on a number line. This number line shows numbers 1 through 5. When we talk about fractions, we talk about fractions being part of one whole. We could have part of one whole shape, part of one whole set. On a number line, we talk about fractions being part of one whole, as in 1, part of one number. So from the 0 all the way over to the 1, there's some space between, just like on our number line on the wall. What if a number doesn't quite make it from 0 to 1? That's when we use fractions. An easy fraction for us to find is half, because we know half is right in the middle. So I would just make a mark in the middle and I would show half. So if I am in the middle between 0 and 1, I would say that fraction is half. Let's say that I want to divide this space between 0 and 1 into 4 pieces. Well, first I would find the middle piece, then I would find the middle and the middle. And this space right here would be 1 out of 4. Because if you look, here's 1, right? Here's 1 space, 2 space, 3 space, 4 space. I've divided up into 4 equal pieces. So this space right here is 1 space out of 4. If I have 2 spaces like that, then this would be 2 spaces out of 4. If I take up 3 spaces, all of these spaces, then that would be 3 spaces out of 4, or 3/4. And if I take up all of the space, then that would be just 1, because that's one whole. The funny thing is, though, right here in the middle it says 2/4, but just a second ago I labeled it as 1/2. That's because 2/4 is actually 1/2. If it's right in the middle, we always call it 1/2. So then I could say that I have 1/4, 1/2, and 3/4 when I divide up my number line. If I want to find this missing number on a number line, first I just need to see how many spaces there are between 0 and 1. 0 and 1. So I would count 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 spaces out of one whole, so I know my denominator is going to be 4 because it's going to be out of 4 spaces. And the bottom number, the denominator, always tells me how many parts of the whole. So there's 4 parts. I can also look at the other denominators to give me a clue on what that number needs to be. Now what I need to do is I need to see how many spaces over it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to count how many spaces over. 1, 2, 3. So it's 3 spaces over before I get to a whole, so I'm just going to label it 3. So it's 3 spaces out of 4 spaces, so I would say 3/4. The neat thing about a number line is I don't have to just talk about the space between 0 and 1. It's the space between any numbers on a number line. So I can also talk about the space between 1 and 2. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to label these really quickly. I see that the first part there are 4 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to go ahead and I know that my denominator is going to be 4. Now this one, I can label it 2/4 if I would like to. But I know that's in the middle, so I can also call it half. So I've got my denominators there. Now I just need to know how many spaces there are to figure it out. So we're going to go ahead and try this. Here we go. This is 1 space, so it's going to be 1/4. This is 2 spaces, so it's going to be 2/4 or 1/2. And then this is 3 spaces, so I know that it's going to be 3/4. That means 3 spaces out of 4. Now here where it says where it would be 4 spaces out of 4, that means that, sorry, I lost my line for a minute. That means that it could be 4/4, but when it's 4 over 4, that just means that it's 1. So we have 1/4, 2/4, or 1/2, or 3/4, then 1. But this number line is cut up too. So we see how many pieces that it's cut up into. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I know that my denominator is going to be 4. Now the interesting thing is that it's no longer just 1/4 or 2/4. There's 1 attached to it. So I would say that this number would be 1 and 1/4. I would say this number would be 1 and 2/4. And I would say that this number would be 1 and 3/4. And I could go on and on with any number on the number line. Any space between the numbers is room for fractions. Anytime we have a number with a fraction, say we have 6 and 1/2, we call that a mixed number. And I'm going to use the symbol for number right there. And that's because we have a whole number and then we have part of a whole. So we call it a mixed number. Now what I would like you to do is start on the guided practice with your teacher and pay very close attention so that you can do the independent practice on your own.